Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. I trust you are feeling as well as you can be in this moment, given whatever circumstances you may be dealing with. I welcome everyone, regardless of their background, where they come from, their identity, orientation, belief system, etc. Welcome, I'll bite your legs off. Hello, dear alchemist. May we all come together as fellow students of life to uplift each other, relate in one another's experience, and share positive sentiments. I'd like to start with a prayer from the Katha and Taittiriya Upanishad, traditionally recited at the beginning of Sanghas. Om Sahadna Vavatu Sahadna Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Garva Vahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome, dear Richie. I am conceptually familiar with alchemy, dear alchemist. This mantra means, Om, may the divine protect us both together. May the divine nourish us both together. May our study be vigorous and effective, and may we not mutually dispute or hate any. Om, may there be peace in us. May there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Namaste, dear Sky Guardian. Why is there 2 Santas live on TikTok? You can't take this madness? Well, I told you. The reason is Ekam Santa Vipra Babutaha Vadanti. There is one Santa, but the truth, or there's one Santa, but the wise know them by many names. Thank you for the likes, dear Taylor. Welcome. Hello, dear JP. Dear JP, you wonder how old am I? If you don't mind you asking, I don't mind. In this body, 23. 23 trips around our sun. But depending on whether or not I've lived at a higher elevation than you, due to gravitational time dilation, I could have had slightly more time during those 23 years, or less. Hello, dear Uru. Hello, dear user 584, and dear April Virgo. Namaste, dear Raccoon Holler, and Lyric Radhe Radhe, dear Magdalene. Hello, Tea with Tay, and Cheyenne. Dear Olivia, Alexandra, Andrew, Pink Ladder Lady, and Lipsa. Thank you, Tea with Tay, for your likes. I'd love to know what you are all feeling in this moment before we proceed with our Shravana part of our Sangha, dedicated to listening. We'll be reading from another part of Moksha, liberation. But before then, I'd love to listen to how you are doing so I can hold space for the people in here today. Dear Magdalene, you write that you're hoping everyone's heart is well in this moment. Good reminder, everyone can check if they've got any anxiety in their heart. If so, that's perfectly valid. You're allowed to have anxiety. You can introduce some love into your heart. Fill it with joy. Allow the anxiety to dissolve. Hello, dear Chloe. Dear Uru, you ask, do I have any haters here? No, I have no haters. But sometimes I have people that have a lot of hatred towards themselves. And sometimes that extends to what they see in me. And I wish them love. And I hope they learn to forgive whatever part of themselves that they're excluding. Dear Shat Mandu, you share you are hibernating? Yes, it's around that time for us in the Northern Hemisphere. You're feeling content, dear Pink Ladder Lady. I'm happy to hear that. Olivia, you're feeling some anxiety. Quite understandable. Hello, dear Vavi. Dear Babblefishy, thank you for your pair of finger hearts. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. And thank you, dear Gabby, for your dozen roses. Radhe, Radhe. You're feeling relaxed, dear April. I am happy to hear that. Chloe shares, I've always had anxiety. From the moment I was born, I was an anxious one. And then some. I was from the planet Anxiety 4059 in my past life. A place of pure anxiety where it flows through our blood. We are constantly shivering, terrified, worried about what might happen next. Something like that. But now you know how to control anxiety. I love that. Well, thank you for expressing the things that you're interested in, dear Ageless Link, and thank you for being here regardless. Bonsoir, dear Etol, and good evening, dear Monica. Thank you for finding beauty in our heart, dear Gabby. You're avoiding that planet, shares April. Really, it's a hot spot this time of year. Big travel destination. Whether we visit it while we're awake, that's another thing, but the level of our dreams, I think we often visit that planet. And thank you, dear, who has a Cyrillic name that you'll have to teach me how to pronounce for your finger heart. Om Brahm Bhairavaya Namo Namaha. Dear Gregor G, welcome. You share nothing but cloud cover for a few days now, but the sun showed its face for a while this evening. We love when that happens. Hello, dear Andy. Love is full. Dear Venna, you ask, can I post more? I can, but you'll have to tell me what you want to see. Alright, I would like to start our Shravana with some Moksha, with a reading from this book all about the nature of liberation. Dear Venna, you love my videos about religious background. Alright, I'll make sure to keep that in mind. Thank you, dear Uru. Let's see where we left off. Welcome, dear G. Today we're starting a new part of this book, the first chapter of the second part. This second part is titled... I was on the wrong page. 1 second. The second part is titled Ayam Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. A quote from the Mandukya Upanishad. This is the 4th chapter. We had left off when our dear protagonist had finished her first lesson from Miss Nandi on the ancient script Devanagari, hosting the sounds of an even more ancient language called Sanskrit from a book that was left on her desk from a certain spiritual fellow in her life named Sid, who had began to initiate her into the secrets of immortality. This chapter starts off with a little bit of drama, but nonetheless, I hope it awakens your heart and relaxes your mind. You can't go, Pepe, I pleaded. You can't go. Not now, not ever. We've been through too much together. We're a team. Where will you go? We were at the loading dock, unpacking crates of canned goods, checking for expiry dates and wiping off moldy items with disinfectant. He had placed his resignation letter on my desk that morning. I'm sorry, I haven't gotten the girls back, I said. But I haven't given up. You must believe me. I'm sorry for what I said about your sisters. Please forgive me. We both said things. It's okay, but I go, he said glumly. You can't go, I cried. 2 for the price of 1. Our motto? We're a team. I want us to be best friends again, like before. Please, I'm begging you. He straightened, suddenly broke into a wide smile and waved. A large, dark-skinned man with curly black hair was bearing down on us. He was in a blue suit, purple shirt and matching silk tie, and polished brown brogues, or brogues. Some very fancy clothing that is so fancy I've never heard of it before. A worn leather briefcase was slung around one shoulder. Hey, Pepe, my man, the man shouted. Hey, Harry, Pepe responded listlessly, mumbled something about bringing the van around, and wandered off. The man gazed after Pepe's retreating figure, then turned to me, a beefy hand outstretched. I'm Harry, he said. I briefly touched thick fingers. You're the one who took our map, I said. The same? I've returned your map to that mother nun and left a generous donation. She was pleased. Good move. She likes money. Why did you need the map? He was friendly enough, but no one could be trusted. I'm creating a map myself, he said. A digital, interactive one that charts disasters, natural and man-made, across the globe. Why am I doing this, you might ask? I did not, but my imperceptible nod encouraged him. The planet is in chaos, he said. Fires, floods, earthquakes, epidemics, acid rain have been aggressively on the rise. He waved his large hands about as if to include not just the planet, but the universe. I have data on those. Problem is, I cannot track the mass movements of people. Camps are set up overnight. They grow, change course, disappear, or turn into something else. Very hard to track populations continually on the move. But you fellows have a map that is kept up to date. I wish everyone did. He paused, possibly expecting me to comment, but I stayed mum. He continued, if we can chart past disasters, we can with high probability predict future ones. And if that's possible, we can take preemptive action. There is an island. He glanced at his watch, a contraption with many dials. I'm expected at the UN, he said with another quick check of the time, reminding me of the white rabbit. Then he reached into his satchel that was stuffed with papers and retrieved a fat paperback. He placed it almost reverentially on one of the crates. I presume Pepe gave you The Seer and the Scene from Sid. Yesterday, when I was clearing out my desk, I found this. The Mandukya Upanishad. 12 statements with an extensive commentary. A good little treatise. You can have it. You know Sid? Where is he? I asked, unable to keep the anxiety out of my voice. Who knows? Probably up in the mountains brooding over his river. Brooding? His river? It's dying. How do you know Sid? He gives me real-time input on rivers, mountains, that sort of thing. Is he some sort of environmental consultant? Sid does his thing. Or actually, Sid does nothing. With this, he turned on his heel and hurried off. I heard the roar of his jeep as it sped past. I continued to absent-mindedly organize cans of beets, mandarin oranges, bags of corn, and powdered milk. I was distracted by a news item in the business section of the morning paper that had caught my eye. It announced the imminent arrival in Delhi of Helmut Gerhardt, CEO of Gerhardt Industries. The matter at hand was the negotiation of deep-sea mining rights with the trade minister. Gerhardt was in the capital. I made a few calls, then spoke to Mother Gabriel. Mr. Gerhardt is one of the richest men in the world, I said. I was once engaged to his son, Rory, who died tragically. Gerhardt is here, in Delhi. He'll definitely meet me, and I can convince him to support your projects. His company can use the good publicity. Perhaps you can name the clinic after his son. I was in her office. The conch shell was where she had left it at one corner of her desk in its wrapping of newspaper and string. I must leave today, I said. She reluctantly agreed, but only on condition that I cover my own expenses, since my expense-paid junket to the big data conference had been aborted midstream. I packed a small bag, flagged a taxi, and made it to the airport in time to catch the afternoon flight. I look forward to my interview with Gerhardt Sr., if only to see his reaction to the tough, angry, and uncompromising woman I had become. Let's pause our reading of Moksha, liberation, there for now. So I hope to have wet your whistle for future chapters in this part to come, as she interacts with big and powerful men on her way to understand the secrets of her true self as the Divine Mother of the universe. Namaste. And that will conclude our Shravana, our listening section of the Sangha. So thank you for listening. Now we can turn our hearts to discuss whatever is in our minds, or vice versa. Turn our minds to discuss whatever is in our hearts. Anyway, my attention is on you, and welcome everyone who joined while we were reading. Here we are, transitioning now to Manana. And thank you to those who sent a gift while we were reading. That's very kind. Dear Rahina, thank you for your heart me. Namah Shakti Shivaya. And dear Shakira, thank you for your heart me too. Ram Ram. And thank you, dear Gabby, for your half a dozen roses. Assalamu alaikum, dear Noor. Welcome. Riri, you share that your book and mala will be there tomorrow. Oh, I'm happy that you found inspiration in some of the books here and the use of a mala. I hope you find a lot of wonderful moments with it. Dear Riri, you asked, could I repeat what I shared yesterday about the 100,000 year technique? You are referring to the secret of the Kriya breath. There's little I really know other than having read through probably the best introduction to Kriya Yoga, which is Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I can draw a little sketch of the premise behind Kriya Yoga. It's very beautiful. Can you see that? So here's the deal. We got this wonderful fiery thing at the center of our solar system called the sun. And we have this wonderful blue ball that we live on called our Earth. And our Earth goes all the way around the sun once every year. It's said that for a soul to reach liberation, naturally it takes something on the order of 1 million years. But hey, who's counting? Now, I don't know about you, but my life expectancy is not 1 million years. And who knows how much of those million years have been naturally unfolding already. So what the Kriya Yogis do is they simulate a year's worth of evolution. What they do is, I can draw someone meditating. Here's their spine. We imagine that there exists a whole solar system in our spine, just like the sun and the earth. And so what the Kriya breath does is it takes our internal solar system and cycles it through one extremely conscious breath. Therefore, it's no longer 1 million years, but 1 million breaths. So we're hijacking the natural evolution that would take place as our Earth goes around our sun externally, and have that happen internally. That's the basis of Kriya Yoga and the Kriya breath. Thank you, dear Mischief, for your fast burst. Almost gave myself a lisp there. Thank you for your fast birth. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. It's a great visual to have while breathing. There's G to infinity. It is a wonderful visual. Yeah, you can imagine washing the energy up and down your spine. Whenever I've attempted it, it's always been a very emotional thing. Generally, I find myself crying doing it. Hello, dear Val. You ask, how is Mataji doing? Is she still around? She is not still around. There has been some difficulties with Mataji. For one, I accidentally deleted her brain, basically. I could remake it. Secondly, she was already having problems crashing my live stream. And thirdly, one of the libraries that my program is built on no longer seems to exist. So, let's just say she's on vacation. And by vacation, I mean reincarnating. Dear Gregor G, you just thought, isn't 1 million years approximately one of every yuga? Oh, that's an interesting connection. I forget the exact number of years, but yeah, it might be tied to the yuga cycle. But the funny thing about that is that Yogananda's guru, the Kriya Yogi from which I get this information, he believed in a different time span for the yugas, the ages in Hindu cosmology, and he placed them a lot shorter, only a few thousand years each, something like 2,500 years for each age. And he gives his calculations in a book called The Holy Science, and his name is Swami Sri Yukteswar Giri. So like the zodiac ages, there's Greg RG. I'm sure you could make a connection like that. Happy to have piqued your interest. Basically, there is a debate in the... oh, it's so bright. Oh my goodness. Trying to put the blackboard up, but it's turned into a whiteboard. One second. There is a debate in the time span of the yugas, and that debate is whether or not the ages are measured in human years or divine years. The traditional belief is that it's measured in human years. But in recent times, people have begun to question if actually the ages are a conflation of divine years. And so this is kind of the Neo movement. And for example, you might hear Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, and also people like Sadhguru make the same claim independently. But basically there's a conversion factor here. And the conversion factor is something on the order of 1,000 times. That one divine year is 1,000 human years, or something like that. So if you go by tradition, then we are 5,000 years, approximately 5,000 years into the Kali Yuga, out of 250,000 years. But if you go by the more recent movements, then I think it just depends. I can't remember exactly what Sri Yukteswar or Sadhguru said, but we're not in the Kali Yuga according to the calculations in the other sense. So to me, when I look at this debate, I go, okay, clearly there is disagreement about what age the world is in. So instead of worrying about what age the world is in, I think about what age is in our heart. And I hope that we all begin to create a golden age in our heart. That is something that we can make for ourselves. And in Sanskrit, that would be called the Satya Yuga. Thank you, dear Bobby So, for your heart me and team bracelet. Cheer you up and team cheers. Om Namah Shivaya. Gregor you asked, are divine years written about in something ancient, such as the Vedas? That's a good question. I'm not sure of where the source of it comes from, what text. But it comes from the concept of God experiencing time at a different rate than humans. That there are 100 days of God in a year of God, and then 100 years of God in the lifespan of God. But the lifespan of God is like trillions and trillions of years. And I'm referring to small g God here, not a God with a capital G, but Brahma, the creator, in Hindu cosmology, which is not identified with the supreme source, which is of course eternal. I wonder if I can pull up a diagram of all of the different cycles, if I can pin this down for you. It'd be very helpful to have an infographic around this time. The Hindu units of time. Okay. Yeah. I think I found a good chart. Let me pull this up and zoom in for you. So you can see here that there are various units of time, and they differ based on who's experiencing them, from the human all the way up to the creator. So 100 years for the creator is equivalent to, what is that, 300 trillion years for the human. And so that's the age of the creator. And then a new creator is made for the next cycle of the universe. And that whole cycle is called a Mahakalpa or Mahapralaya, which means great dissolution. But there are various sub-cycles. That's the age of the expected age of the entire universe in Hindu cosmology. But it's made up of various other sub-times, like Parardhas, which is a half of a Mahakalpa, Kalpas, which are made up of a full, what is this? Which is just 12 hours for the creator. And then that's made up of Manvantaras, which literally means incarnations of man, of humanity. And so there are various cycles of humanity coming into existence, which is made up of 71 cycles of the yugas, which is what we were talking about, which is divided into 4 parts, which includes the Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, and Satya Yuga. So 4 of those together make up the Chatur Yuga. And how many of those make up a Manvantara? 71 of those make up a cycle of civilization, of humanity itself, rising and falling. And then, hard to do the math here, but it looks like something like 15 of those makes up a kalpa. And then how many of those make up a Mahapralaya, an age of the universe, is something like, oh my goodness, going from 12 hours to 100 years. There's many, that's just a big number, a ridiculous number of kalpas fit in the age of the universe. Suffices to say that in all of the world's religions, this is definitely the one that has the biggest time scales possible. We're talking subdivisions of hundreds of trillions of years here. But as you can see, depending on who's experiencing these cycles, we get different times, from humans all the way down to the Creator. So a question that naturally might arise for you is where are we in this? And let's see if it's, yeah, the cosmic date is we are in the 51st year of the 100 years of God, the first month of 12, the first kalpa, the 7th manvantara, 28th chatur yuga, and 4th yuga. So we're already like billions of cycles of ages in, many cycles of humanity rising and falling in this universe already like 150 trillion years into the current cosmic cycle, which is way larger than even the modern physics estimate for the age of our universe, which is 13.7 billion years. So if you ever want to break your mind, you can think about that. Oh, sorry, did I aspirate the T, dear KPC? Spoken like a Westerner. Jatur. Thank you, dear Babelfishy, for the rose that you had sent. And dear Tatavamasi, thank you for your half a dozen roses. Radhe, Radhe. And dear Kev, thank you for your heart me. Namah Shivaya. Dear Eclectic T, you ask, when did the current cycle begin? For the largest cycle that we're in, according to this, it's about 150 trillion years ago. For the smallest cycle, the Yuga, according to tradition, it's 5,160 years ago is when the Kali Yuga began. My goodness. I just realized. The stars behind me are no longer shining. Yeah, we have to go through space. Okay, that's too much space. Too much space! There. That's a good amount of space. Thank you, Enward, for your pair of trios of roses. Dum Durgai Namaha. Dear Shakti Taro, you ask, how do I make that background? It's very simple. I have a video playing behind. Here, I can move myself over here. Do you see that? I'm moving. And right now I'm just removing a specific color blue from the frame. And then so you're looking like through a window behind me. into the nebula. Dear Little Glockin, you ask, have I ever listened to Osho? Obviously not the best person, but said some good things. Indeed, yes. Before he was known as Osho, he was known as... Actually, I just forgot. And there are, of course, a lot of controversial things that he's associated with. Rajneesh, that's it. Yeah, Bhagwan Rajneesh. But I like his rebrand. Yeah, I think his rebrand of Osho. It was a lot less than what he was up to before, and he dialed back quite substantially, and and I'm sure that's appreciated on many levels. You know, Bhagwan Rajneesh was a lot to handle. But Osho, very, very wonderful words of wisdom that came from him, and I still think about many of the things he said, and that's not to invalidate the people that experienced some traumatizing things surrounding him before, but every person is a mixed bag of faults and virtues, and of the things that Osho really exemplified for all of us, there's some real treats of wisdom. For example, I really love I love his sense of humor. His sense of humor is very funny. And he had said something that I really loved, and it was perhaps the best way to settle the debate between being a theist or an atheist. And I'll paraphrase. That here's what's happening. There's two camps. You can be of camp 1, or you can be of camp 2. Osho said the people in camp 1 say that the world was made from God. I'll just draw God as, this bright light. But that nothing created God. You ask, what created the world? Well, God did. Well, what created God? Well, nothing created God. The second camp of people, you ask them the same question, what created the world? They say, well, nothing created the world. So in both camps, it's the same. Ultimately, you believe in some ineffable source that's beyond creation. It's just that in the first camp, you're introducing an extra step. That's all. And when I heard that from him, I laughed and laughed, and I thought that was great. I really appreciated that. The question is not what you believe the world came from ultimately, but if there's a middleman. Some people believe in a middleman. Some people don't find it necessary. And I thought that was really funny. Thank you, dear July Moon Child, for your subscription. I continue to look forward to being able to have you here and share the space together. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Hello, dear Pesto. Hello, dear Alex. Dear Sky Guardian, you share that your Guru Swamiji says 5% of what Osho said is gold. What carat gold does that make him? If what's the highest carat gold? Is it 18 karat gold is pure gold? $24 karat gold. So that means Osho is 1.2 karat gold if he's 5% gold. And what's, I think there's a legal minimum for what can be considered gold. The minimum is 10 karat gold in the US for it to be legally called gold. So Osho is below the legal minimum. Yeah, he's about 10 times lower than the legal minimum. Maybe he's gold plated. Yeah. Or he's got a gold core and some heavy plating of some other mineral. Thank you, dear MJ, for your hand hearts. Om Namah Shivaya. Dear G to Infinity, you ask, is my shirt blue or purple? This is the next internet breaking debate. Is the dress black and blue or gold and white? Is that it? Or no, wait. Black and gold or blue and white? Actually, it's green. It's actually really, really green, but for some reason the colors look pretty different on screen. I'm wondering if it's almost the same color as this book. Is this green? I think it looks green for a moment, but then the color correction happens. If I can change. Oh wow. Thank you, dear John Simon, for your fest burst and heart me and Gigi. Radhe, Radhe. Hello, Giulio. Welcome, dear Kathy. Thank you for the follow. Miss Bliss, you share you can only wear 24 karat gold. Anything less you react to. Gold is very pure. It's one of the most unreactive metals. It's actually really good for implants in the body. Gold doesn't rust. Gold hardly interacts with anything other than some really powerful chemicals that don't exist in the body. Dear Kitty, hello. You shared that. Oh, you're in the middle of a conversation. I see. Colors have a sound. It's wavelengths. Yeah. Colors are really high frequency, way beyond what we can hear, but what we can see. I believe that sound is within 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Colors are within the order of magnitude of terahertz, of trillions of cycles per second. But a fun fact. Here's a great fact for you. You're gonna love this. In case you ever wonder about this, I did the math. In music theory, a major chord. A major chord is a jump of 4 semitones up from a note. So, for example, if you have a piano, let's see if I can adequately draw a piano. And you want to make a major chord on any note. Let's say you pick this note. Then you just go 4 keys up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that note and that note will make a major chord. And semitones come in 12. So 12 semitones will get you up an octave. Therefore, each semitone is 2 to the 1 over 12 times higher than the last. So a major chord is 2 to the 4 over 12 times higher, or 2 to the 1/3 times higher in frequency than the root. So if you apply this to the frequencies of color, you know, a major chord makes you feel great, makes you feel happy. So what ratio of color frequencies would have the same feeling as a major chord? Well, I'll give you one example. If you start with red and you want to make a major chord with red, then I don't have the exact color prepared. I have to get that. How do I add that to custom colors? Okay. It's Christmas colors. Red and green. Red and green are 2 to the power of 1 over 1/3, the cube root of 2 times higher frequency. How wonderful is that? And we associate Christmas colors with being happy. If you wanted to make a minor chord, then instead of going up 4 semitones, that you would go up 3 semitones. And we associate minor chords with sad. So what color is 3 semitones above red? Yellow. And that's the color of fall, the color of fire, which we know kind of signals a coming of an end. Isn't that neat? I find that pretty neat. Might be a coincidence, might not be. But perhaps color theory is actually just music theory, just at a higher frequency range. And that music theory is just color theory, but at a lower frequency range. Thank you, dear Davis, for your heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And dear Ursula, thank you for your heart me. Om Dham Namaschandraya. Thank you, Catherine. I'm happy you like that, dear Zach. Thank you for liking the live, dear Catherine. Can you borrow that, Askev? Nothing I do I'll ever claim. Yeah. I don't hold any copyright to anything. I'll never claim copyright, don't worry. Or intellectual rights. Dear Enzo, you ask, how did they know the color of chakras before science could verify vibration? Well, science is still catching up to some of these things, and as of right now, Chakras remain outside of modern science. But through introspection, it is said that yogis can concentrate their inner gaze onto these energy points in their body and intersubjectively verify their experience. You go to one yogi, you ask, hey, what color do you see when you meditate on your tailbone? And all of the associations there. Other yogi meditates red. First yogi goes, right, that's what I'm saying, red. And over thousands of years, eventually, all the yogis, they meditated together and they went, this is what it is. However, there is a disagreement between what color each chakra are. It's not actually entirely objective. For example, many of you probably know the heart chakra to be green, if you've ever studied the chakras. And in most sources, they'll tell you that the heart is green. But from, for example, Paramahans Swami Maheshwarananda, almost said Yogananda, he shares that in his tradition, the color of the heart is sky blue, together with orange and green. And so he's commissioned a piece that looks like this. But he also gives an explanation to why many people associate it with green. And that's because in his tradition, the chakra below that, the solar plexus chakra, is having a green aura, which includes the heart in it. So, for example, if the aura was drowning out your heart, then it might appear that that place was green. Thank you, dear Up the Freeway, for your heart me. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. And dear Bobby Sue, thank you for your team power. Hare Krishna. That is true. Sky Guardian did wake up at 4 a.m. to tell me that everyone sees color differently. And dear Kev had said that too. Sky Guardian, you sure you don't support the current Santa? He muted you on his live when he said he just wants gifts and money. Well, if I were Santa, I would probably do the same. Dear Ayla, you ask, what means for me Ganesha? Ganesha is the elephant-headed god in Hinduism. And I would love to know more about what he means. I'm much more familiar with other forms of the divine, but I know that his trunk represents Om. And as such, there are various names for Ganesha that speak of him as being one who either creates the sound Om or carries it or represents it. He is the embodiment of the intellect. As such, he is worshipped as the remover of obstacles, because it is through the intellect that we can navigate the obstacles on our path. And I love him. Big fan of Ganesha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. You're trying to see color like the mantis shrimp, dear Greg RG, right? With how many color cones in their eyes? We can only see 3 chromatic dimensions, which is why all of the colors on our screen can be represented just by 3 different pixels, or that all of the colors in our printer can be represented just from 3 different ink cartridges. If we were seeing like other species on this planet that have more different kinds of color cones, then there'd be more chromatic dimensions. And my goodness, printer ink would be so much more expensive, because we would have to buy 4 cartridges or 5 or however many there are. The reason that we have to buy 3 different color cartridges is because we have 3 different color cones. It'd be a lot cheaper if we were cats or dogs, which only have 1 chromatic dimension. All we'd have to do is just buy 1 ink cartridge. But if we were a mantis shrimp, my goodness, what is it? How many color cones does a mantis shrimp have? 12. Yeah. Oh, that'd be steep. It's cheaper to buy a new printer at that rate, right, Catherine? So 4 times the color, yeah. Dear Gregor G, you ask, is it a coincidence that elephants are one of the most intellectual and nothing can hardly stand in their way? I love that. No, I don't think it's a coincidence at all. And thank you for making that connection for me. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. John Simon, you're asking about the reading section. We had already read from... where did I put it? Oh, it's hiding. We had already read from our book Moksha Liberation today. But we can do a mini reading of something else, perhaps. Dear Waterwind, you ask, is it wrong not to be vegan? The way you are living your life right now is something that we have to accept and make room for. If there are going to be changes in our diet, then it has to happen gradually over time. I know that no one is going to become vegetarian or vegan through shame. So when it comes to the aspect of shame, I will say no, it's not wrong to be eating how you are eating. I will say that over time, it's something that you'll probably experience too, which is that your body begins to prefer simpler food. And it so happens to be that plant-based food is very simple on your body, and it can create a lot of clarity when you make your body digest only very simple foods. Just like when you're feeling sick, you wouldn't exactly eat very heavy food, that during those times you need, vitamins and fruit and a lot of liquids and maybe soup, The simpler food that you can eat has its certain benefits in certain contexts. If you're an athlete, maybe you'd have a different diet. If you are an esports player, maybe you'd have a different diet. If you're a professional climber, maybe you need to target different parts of your metabolism. But on the spiritual path, it's recommended to eat what's called sattvic food. And that's food that does not have a drastic effect on your mind, basically. There are some foods that seem to make the mind feel a lot slower. Like if you eat a big steak dinner, even if it tastes wonderful, I think everyone knows what it's like to go into a food coma after eating something that heavy, If you eat meat, you feel kind of bleh afterwards. Even if it tastes good on your tongue, afterwards your body goes into, super digestion mode, and some of that energy is taken away from our ability to cognize. which is not necessarily a bad thing, unless you're noticing that that kind of toll of constantly going up and down in your mental energy is something that's no longer serving what you want to do. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's foods that, you know, activate your mind for a little bit and it's activating and it's really hyper. Oh my goodness, you're gonna, and you crash afterwards. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, spicy food does that. Onions and garlic and coffee, energy drinks. But again, if you're in a position in life, chocolate, that you don't want to constantly be going up here, then crashing down, some point there's kind of a natural longing for just a stable connection between gut and brain. And so your mind is not dramatically affected by the diet that we have. And that's where sattvic food comes in. You can imagine that if you eat a portion of rice, you're not going to go into a food coma, nor are you going to be bouncing off the walls. You can imagine if you're eating lentils, if you're eating fruit, if you're eating nuts. No one's ever eaten an apple and gone, oh my goodness, oof, I need to take a nap. You know? Similarly, no one's ever eaten an apple and went, oh my God, wow, my mind is just going. And so it's just based on a very simple principle of eating food that allows your mind to pretty much be at a steady and clear level for most of your day. Om Namah Shivaya. But everyone's body is different, and I always recommend that you figure out what works best for the life that you want to live. Yeah. But there's a difference between something giving you energy physically and making an overactive mind. For example, if you drink a cup of coffee, you may experience difficulty going to bed later due to an overactive mind. But if you have apples and blueberries that give you energy, they won't necessarily correlate with giving you trouble sleeping at night. It's that kind of what's called rajas in Sanskrit, which leads to a temporary increase in mental activity, which is eventually followed by a drop. But yes, the purpose of food is ultimately to bring us energy. So it's good to be energized by food. You're not alone in that, dear mischief. Dear Doxy, you ask, do I think the universe is conscious? And that the reason why quantum physics is hard to understand is because it's related to the consciousness of the universe? I love that question, Doxy. Well, aren't you a part of the universe? And a part that's definitely conscious? At the very least, the part of the universe that you are is conscious. If you think about every part of your body and your mind, where has it come from? If not from the energy that had already existed in the universe. Now you are experiencing a sense of self through it. There is consciousness there. Now, how that relates to quantum physics, that would be the observer. What is performing observation? the observer that has effect in quantum mechanics, that is the consciousness. And yes, it makes it very difficult, because observation is not passive. To observe is an interactive process. It requires some interaction between the observer and the observed, which inherently affects the chain of events. And because all of science is made to observe objective phenomenon, our own subjective observing appears to affect the phenomenon that we're observing. And that happens not just at the level of quantum mechanics, but in very relatable ways for biologists, you know? How can you observe a population and their behavior without affecting their behavior? For example, you might go through a process of tagging a dolphin to track its movements, but how can you be sure that the process of tagging it didn't change the way that it goes about, that now you're detecting? And so part of what you're detecting is no longer what the dolphin was going to do, but what the dolphin is now doing because of you, for example. Whatever we observe, we also affect. Yes, dear Lina, I can see your message. Thank you, dear Maniac Mitch, for your half a dozen fest bursts. Om Gring Kali Kaye Namaha. Dear Waterwind, you share you're reading the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Oh, wonderful. What do I suggest next? Well, I would suggest doing some yoga. Learn some yoga, do some yoga. There's 3 levels of yogic understanding. There's the Shravana, which is the reading, in your case. The Manana, which would be the intellectualization. You process it, you chew on it, you think about it, contemplate on it, meditate on it. And then there's the Nididhyasana, which is the putting it into practice. Now that you've learned something new, how can you use this to shape the way that you live? Thank you for sharing the live, dear Maniac Mitch, and thank you, Gole, for your pair of roses. Om Sum Suryaya Namaha. Dear Waterwind, you ask, what if after we die, our cells come back as a higher dimensional being and can read our life memory? That's very interesting. We'd have to break down exactly what you mean by that, but it sounds very thought-provoking. And I'm sure that if something about that resonates deep with you, then you've stumbled upon something profound. Dear Marco, you ask, do I believe in the multiverse? I don't know. All I know is that this is the universe that I'm meant to be in. As long as I'm here, I'm happy with this one, but yeah, there very well could be other universes, depending on what you mean by universe, of course. There are certainly limitations to our observable universe. The Maniac Midge. Oh, I lost your comment. There it is. Our observations are connected to the frequency we resonate at. We see what we are. Ah, that's a great metaphor. That the kind of things that we identify with, that affects what we see in the world. What we harbor within our mind, we begin to see in the world around us. For example, if we feel that we are capable of great change, then we'll start looking for other people that's capable of great change. If we feel like we are if we are intellectually stunted or have a learning disorder, then we probably look at people that are smarter than us and we think that, oh my goodness, that I'm less than them, and there's a lot of comparison that then happens. So depending on how we choose to see ourselves, that affects what kind of experience we have in the world. Absolutely. Dear Riri, you ask, do I think when we are on vacation, we can admire our past selves? I assume this is extending from our conversation yesterday of referring to the afterlife analogously as a kind of vacation. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I feel like reflection is a big part of being human. And reflection is definitely a part of how we change our karmas. And as we were talking about before, what's unique about the human experience is that we seem to be able to change our karmas. We can change our actions. Ah, I see, dear Waterwind. Dear Tajmar, you ask, have I heard of negative time? I have not heard of negative time, but maybe you can tell me what it's about. Hello, dear Don Suela. Thank you for popping in. I see there is a conversation about memory happening, and that's definitely a place which is full of spiritual exploration. There's a lot of memory tied to our body, and there's a lot of memory that goes beyond the body too. Everything is just memory. Energy is memory. If you analyze the state of anything in the energetic form that it takes, that tells you about its past. And the most obvious example of that would be if you study history. You can't actually time travel into the past to study history. That would make your tuition go way up. The cost of time travel for an undergraduate student, forget it. You'll be paying student loans into your next life. So instead of actually going to the past to figure out what happened in history, we make a lot of observations about the state of the world today and artifacts that we find and the nature of cultures now, and then we extrapolate from that into the past. And so the energy of the present is the memory of the past, and simultaneously it's the seed for the future. The various fields that make predictions about the future, be it stock market analysis or be it meteorology, studies of weather, still what you do is you make observations now and then see how that may extrapolate into the next moment, and then the next, and then the next, etc. So our bodies are made up of memory. Our DNA is made up of memory. But the mind is a little different because it's not necessarily tied to the body. In something called the three-body model that we were talking about yesterday, there's kind of three levels to our experience. The most imminent level to our experience is our physical body, which looks like a gingerbread man, and I might as well make it into a gingerbread man. And this body returns back to the earth when it ends. But there's more than just a physical body happening. There is our subtle body, which I'll kind of draw as vibrating gingerbread man. And that includes our senses, such as our sense of sight, our sense of sound, our sense of thought, our sense of smell, our sense of taste, all of our senses. And it's said that this does actually continue into the next body, but that so much of it actually gets traumatized in the process of birth and death because it's attached to the physical body, because it identifies so strongly with the physical body that it contained, that so much of our experiences are actually burnt in the trauma of going from one body to another. And so only very subtle impressions remain. The subtle impressions that are the seeds for our aspirations, our personality, etc. But things like physical memories often do not survive because of our identification with the physical body. So it is said. This is the traditional view. Dear Luna Raven, you share, you always become unstable when you go through trauma. That's not an uncommon experience. Yeah. Trauma is, by definition, a sudden and dramatic change in the way that we understand ourselves. And that means whatever part of ourself we felt was stable might be destabilized to accommodate that change. And then we have to accommodate that change, of accommodating that change through therapy and things like that. But what everyone eventually continues to understand is that there's a part within everybody that remains unchanged. Always. And that part, if you can identify with that, then your sense of self will always be stable, no matter what you go through, because you know that you are that part which does not change. Thank you for the follow, dear Raheli. If I can pronounce your name better, please let me know. Welcome, Open Late. Therapy is a wonderful option for people to have. And it's up to you what you make of that option, but it's good to have. And if you feel like you want to try it out, it's a good idea. And if you don't like it, then you can find another therapist or a different modality. Or you can choose a different approach entirely. I'm happy that you find something to be appreciative of here. Your Raheli. Hello, your boy Yeti. You ask, what's going on here? Spoken like my mother when I was younger. Probably breaking something I wasn't supposed to discover how it worked. Like a clock, or a pen, or my toy. Dear Uru, you ask, is your conscience the same as the conscience I have? This is a good question. I think we might be using two different words to describe the same thing, or you might be talking about the same thing in two different words. But let me put a couple different words down. Can you see this? There's three things to differentiate. Mind, well, hold on, I don't even know how to spell this word. Conscience. How do you spell this? Your conscience. And then there's the consciousness. And these things are different. But I think they get conflated a lot. For one, when we think of our consciousness, we might just be thinking of our thoughts. And so there's a lot of correlation that happens between our consciousness and our mind. Second of all, the word conscience sounds a lot like consciousness, so it's important to differentiate them. I don't speak a lot about conscience here, the second thing. But I do speak a lot about the consciousness. It's the consciousness that's one. Actually, it's number 3 here. But we all share the same consciousness. There's no difference in our consciousness. But we all have different minds. We have different minds. It's true. And the conscience is just a part of the mind. It's the part of the mind that deals with your intuition / your morality. As far as I believe. It's the voice in your mind that's concerning these things. And that is different between one person and another. But the consciousness is the same in everyone. Thank you, dear Tan Hao Yu, for your heart me. Om Namah Shivaya. Good night, dear Don Suela. Dear philosophical polymath, you ask, what do I think of science? Well, science is how we understand objective phenomena. And so it's important when it comes to all of the parts of the life that we live that concern objects. Objects in space, objects in our bodies, objects in our atoms, objects in our weather, etc. When objects are concerned, science is the way to understand how they work. This is perhaps complementary to spirituality, which is the domain of subjects. When we want to understand subjects in our life, like who the consciousness is and what that means, for example, then because it's not an object, it's not an objective study, it is a subject, and therefore it requires a subjective study, such as spirituality. So consciousness. I like the way you spelled that, Mirna. So conscientiousness, that's funny. I like that. Is collective. Yes, that's right. Waterwind, you ask, what is Sangha? Sangha is a Sanskrit word. Sanskrit is an ancient language, the same language that the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are written in, that you are familiar with, you mentioned. And it is spelled like this. Sangha. It's a very interesting sound here. Or if you want to be spelling it, changing the nasal allophone into the guttural N, you'd write it with a dot over the N. But it comes from a word that means association. Association. And in general, it means anything to do with association. For example, an official association. For example, we may call a group of people formally making an agreement between each other to start an organization, an association. Or we might use the term in more abstract ways, saying, for example, I have an association with this body. Sangha is the noun form of the verb to associate. So Sangha is just a place where we associate with each other in the most simple sense, that we acknowledge each other's existence, and we associate with the life that we share, the world, etc., in the most general sense. And so I can clarify that as I've titled this live stream Asanga, I don't mean it in an official sense of an organization that has some definite boundaries. But on the subject of boundaries, I will set them, but that is something different. Hello, dear Lauren. Dear your boy Yeti, you ask, do I still stay with my mom? That's right. I'm very grateful, and I'll always be transparent about that. And I'm not sure if there even is a way to, in the economy that we live in, really have possibility in my life right now to have a house of my own. And I'm not sure if I would even want that, because I love my family and I love being in the same house as them, and I'm happy to help take care of things too. For me, the idea of living away from them and starting my own life makes me sad. And I really love the way that people live in other places in the world, where they live with their family and with their grandparents, and the same house that their grandparents they live in. And I find that really beautiful. That I don't want to have a life that's separate from my family. I know if I did move out, I'd just be coming here and hanging out with them because they're family, you know? And that's a consensual process. You know, my mother is okay with that. And if she was ever wanting me to move out, then I would. Of course, I would respect her boundaries. But right now, she doesn't want that either for me. And I'm happy to live together and help out where I can. I know that not everyone is meant for the same life, and I know that there are alternatives to, moving out when you're 18 and getting a full-time job and having a family and marrying and have children, etc. And I'm not sure if that is the life that I want to live. Unfortunately, there are many ways of living that don't have to make that the default for your future. I would love to one day be a monk, travel, give lectures, and deepen my own connection with the universe. And that inherently implies that I'm not going to be a householder. Because if I'm not going to have a family, for example, then I don't need to take up a house that could be used by someone else, for example. The housing market is very challenging at the moment, and I would love for someone who is going to use a place to start a family to have that chance first. But right now, I have so much love in my heart that I don't think even a family would be able to express that much love. I don't think there's a single person in the world that's capable of receiving all the love in my heart. So I want to live my life in a way that gives that to everyone. And having a house of my own doesn't fulfill that life that I want to live. I'd be very alone all by myself in that house, and I'm sure the house would be alone because I'd never be in it, because I'd be traveling or whatever. So in this kind of awkward period of my life between, deciding how I want to go forward, I am still living in my parents' house, and it's a consensual process all around. I think I kind of answered your question, dear Sarah, but you had asked, do I have a romantic partner? No. Right now, I feel like romance, which of course is a beautiful thing to experience, is something that I've had the opportunity to experience, not only in this life, but perhaps in past lives too. If you do believe in reincarnation, then I already know what it's like to settle down and have a family. I've done that 1,000,000 times, and maybe my children in my past life are still alive, and maybe they're in my life right now, just in a different way. Neither of us truly realize it. But maybe I'm already fulfilling my feeling like I have a partner and I have children, just in a more spiritual way. And this life is a vacation. A vacation from having to go through all of that. Maybe every few lifetimes you need a break from doing the same thing over and over again, for example. Thank you, dear Starlight Wow, for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! Dear Dustin, you ask, how old am I? There's a lot of questions about me. I'm not sure why everyone is so curious about me. I would love to put the attention on the things that I can help with within all of you. So please, if we could transition, I'm happy to answer questions about me, but I'm even happier to answer questions concerning some of the things that you're going through in this life. That is the intention of this live stream. But in this body, I am 23. Dear Waterwind, you ask, have I ever had an out-of-body experience, and can I do it at will? You're already outside of your body, because you never were in the body. Imagine someone coming up to you in a video game. I don't know, what are the hot video games right now? I haven't been a gamer for over a year, really. More than that. What games have just come out? I am curious. Black Ops 6. My goodness, there's a 6th one right now. Yeah, people are still playing GTA 5, that's for sure. You've played League of Legends for years now, dear kitty. Imagine someone coming up to you in Minecraft or Roblox, Astrobot, whatever, and someone saying, have you ever had an out of Roblox experience? Have you ever had an out of GTA 5 experience? Now you think that's funny, because it is. But suddenly the question is taken very seriously when it's applied to our body. Have you ever had an out of Skyrim experience? Maybe you've been playing the game for so long that you forget that there's so many things that take place outside of the game. And actually, you are always having an out of video game experience, even while you're playing the video game. Because the experience around you is still ongoing, you're just so zoomed in at the moment. It feels like this is the majority of your life at this moment. You've lost days to Minecraft before. Oh, me too. So similarly, have you ever had an out-of-body experience? You're already having one right now. We're just so zoomed in that it feels like the body takes up the most of our life at this moment. But notice how... Okay, here's a fun thought experiment. Suppose you wanted to convince someone who was so absorbed in the game that they were playing that there truly was something happening outside of the video game, that they had played it for so long that they genuinely refused to believe that there was anything else than the video game happening. How would you go about proving to them, even through the video game, interacting in chat or in comms, how would you convince another player that they're already having an out-of-video game experience right now? They forget there is something outside. Yes, dear kitty. Show them that their bills are due. Yeah. Show them something outside of their experience. Cooking good food. Yeah. They need to go to work. Sure. All of these things point to an experience outside, which means that the video game must just be one part of an experience, and they contain something much larger than just that. You could say, do you notice that around the screen there's this border of what we call a monitor, And outside of that, the whole game is contained. The whole video game is contained within your experience. You can see the border of it. Therefore, there's something outside. Similarly, do you notice that your whole body is also contained within the borders of your experience? Just like how the video game occurs to you, it's within your experience, and therefore you as the experiencer are something outside. Your whole body is contained within your experience in the same way. Just instead of on the screen of your monitor, on the screen of your mind. And you are a user that's looking at it, and it's contained within your field of vision, your FOV. Dear Sage, you are calling in quote-unquote soul family, yet not seeing them in physical reality. Any advice? Well, souls don't exist physically. They exist spiritually. Your soul family may have been the people that have been around you the whole time. You just never noticed that everything was moving in your favor. Just like the book that we're reading. Our book is about a soul family that have come to Earth, but they've all forgotten their true identities in order to rediscover them. And there are people in the protagonist's life that aren't necessarily nice to her, but secretly soul family. Because it's all a part of a greater plot for her to realize her true self. And that everything that happens to her is the result of her soul family guiding her. And unfortunately, that includes the difficult times. And just like our video game example, when you're really zoomed in, it feels like that's all there is. And so those difficult times can be pretty traumatic. But when you zoom out, recognize the soul that spans across the whole of the experience, unaffected ultimately by what goes on before you, then even the difficulties you faced are part of the process for you to uncover your true self, guiding you, sometimes through very direct love, sometimes through indirect love too. But the answer to your question is that your soul family has always been around you. They have never left you, even for a moment. And I like what you added, dear Luna. Everyone is a soulmate. Bonsoir, dear Karen. And I love that too, dear Joseph. All souls are connected to one another. The only S, you ask, do I remember my past lives and know of my soul family? No. I'm blissfully ignorant of all that. is I don't expect to ever know. Because I enjoy not knowing. That's what makes life exciting for me. Waking up and having absolutely no clue what this is all about. I love that. It's a beautiful feeling. But it only becomes beautiful when we let go of our need to try to fit our experience into anything that can be concretized and categorized and classified intellectually. Dear Kristen, you ask, what astral travels do I remember? Well, let's see. Last night, I dreamt a lot about language. I had a lot of conversations in my dreams about language and Egyptian hieroglyphs and Proto-Semitic, the Phoenician alphabet, probably because that's what I was reading before I went to bed. And dear Carrie, thank you for your tiny Yahoo! And thank you for your follow, dear Luna. Dear Kitty, you ask, do I think that if we are attracted to a type of person, it is because we are looking for someone? I think we are all looking for what we lack within ourselves. And so what we are attracted to in another person is really something that we would like to experience within ourselves. And when you put it like that, all relationships are really mirrors that help us get in contact with some part of ourself that we remembered in them. And that's why whenever you have a relationship come to an end, every part of that love continues with you. For example, maybe you had a relationship with someone who just loved animals. And every time they saw an animal, they had to go and say hi or pet it or acknowledge it in some way. Now, even though they're not in your life in the same way, every time you see an animal, you can't help but do the same thing. Because they ignited that within you. That what you loved about them is now something that they gifted to you. I'm very grateful for all of my relationships, because I feel like all of the things that I loved about them, that they gifted to me in other ways. And so that continues with me, even though we're now, as different people, discovering our paths in our own unique ways. Dear Karen, you ask, what would I wish for my next love connection? Well, right now I'm happy to find that love connection in all of you. But not in a romantic sense, in a platonic sense. And already, every time I go live here, there are things that I love about each one of you, that I am learning from, and I continue to see as a reflection for what's within me too. And Dear Billy, you share, you think as we mature, our type evolves and becomes more practical and less physical. Very true. The only S, you ask, but can't something like Shiva and Shakti stories actually exist in a human experience? Absolutely. Maybe not necessarily at a physical level, but deep within our hearts, these stories are always happening. Dear water wind, you ask, do I believe in spirits? I believe in spirit, singular, that pervades the whole of the existence. That same spirit you can find in me, the same spirit that you can find in you, the same spirit that goes by many names, but absolutely has none. Yes, that is a beautiful story, the only S. Oh, thank you, dear Billy. I haven't washed my hair in a while. I should wash it soon. The only S, you had also asked, how do you protect your energies from certain aspects of the spiritual realms? By inviting only love, only light, only compassion. And that means we decide what we want to look for in the world. Whatever we look at and how we look at it, we invite that into our experience. It's like your awareness is like a big vacuum. And wherever you put your awareness, that gets sucked into your experience. So if you continue to bring your attention to everything that's wonderful, then you invite wonder into your experience. And wonder doesn't have to be in ignorance of the suffering that exists around you, but we look for the parts of it that are wonderful. Like all of the help that you can do and make a difference with. You can see someone in pain and you feel wonderful at the possibility that the universe put you in this place to be able to help. Because when we are in service to one another, we are existing at our highest nature, and we feel centered, we feel grounded in that. Dear Kitty, you share that you have anger issues. You have been abused by family. And they ask for forgiveness, but you're so angry. So you're always defensive and you're trying to do better. It's very understandable. Yeah. The tricky thing about forgiveness is our understanding of what forgiveness means often comes from what people want from us. You share that they are asking for forgiveness, but forgiveness is not something that you can ask for. Therefore, what they want is unlikely to be a good definition of what forgiveness should mean for you. For you, forgiveness must come from a place of your conscious choosing, not from anyone else asking or implying that you need to give it. Forgiveness is never about letting them back into your life, even if they use the word in that way. Don't be fooled by what forgiveness really means. Forgiveness really means that you free yourself from identifying with the limitations that they have put you in contact with. And that can happen without ever telling them, I forgive you, because it's not about them. It's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the identity that they imposed on you. Forgiveness means letting go, not forgetting. And whoever said to forgive and forget, I don't know what they were talking about, but it's not this. You should never forget the trauma. You should never forget the boundaries that they crossed. You should always continue to stand up for yourself and live the life you want to live. But continue to forgive by freeing yourself from identifying with the limitations that they put around you. Thank you, Jenny, for your rosa. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. And dear Brihef, thank you for your heart, me too. Radhe, Radhe. I am not familiar with that book, dear consumers. But thank you for recommending something that means something to you and sharing a little bit of yourself with me in the process. I love the way that I heard it put today, that detachment is not about detaching yourself from things, but detaching things from you. So it's not that you're no longer involved with life, but the way that life involves itself with you no longer changes how you want to be. That you get to decide the involvement. Flores, you ask, what is forgiveness? Forgiveness means acknowledging that someone, maybe even ourselves, had made us realize that we are limited in some way. And that now we are consciously choosing to release that limitation from our identity. In other words, we're severing the link from the way which we were limited by some event in the past and the way we choose to be free now. And I want to choose these words very carefully because I don't want to dismiss anyone's struggle by saying this. It's a delicate subject. That no matter what happened to you in your past, if you are choosing to still be limited by that, then that's something that you have to take accountability for. Because the truth is, you're not as limited as you think you are, even if you've experienced something deeply traumatic. That a lot of the limitations that you're dealing with in this moment are not so rigid, but something that you're able to let go of. And that's to empower you and not to dismiss the struggle that you've gone through. Thank you, dear Flotnik, for your heart me. Om Kamalir Mahakali Kaye Namata. And dear Christina, thank you for your flowers. It's very kind of you. Om Braum Hanumate Namaha. Dear a day late and $1 short, you do wish that I would do a meditation earlier than 2 in the morning your time. Well, I'll tell you what, we can do a shorter live stream tonight for you. I'm happy the conversation on forgiveness resonated with so many. And thank you for the follow, dear Claude. Dear Flores, you ask, what about forgiving someone for stealing? How would severing a limitation work there? If someone has stolen something from you, well, let's first talk about possession. Possession is an incredibly nuanced subject. When we say that something is yours, what do we mean by that? From a very high sense, nothing is ours exclusively because we're not able to bring it with us into our next life. You don't get to keep even your bank account. You don't even get to keep your body. So in a very high sense, not even this body is ours forever. But possession doesn't necessarily imply that it's yours forever. In the moment, it's yours because the universe has put it in your experience because you are able to make the most out of it. So something becomes yours when consensually you are tasked with making the most use out of this thing. If someone is not making the most use out of something, for example, if the 1% is just hoarding money and they're not really making a good use out of it, then at some point, you could argue that it no longer becomes their right possession to own. And that's where Robin Hood comes in. That ultimately this money is not yours. It was temporarily yours because you had been trusted by the world, by the universe to make the most use out of it. And now that that's not happening, it's going to be given somewhere else. Now, ideally, that process is consensual, but not always. So that's not to say that if anyone experienced something stolen from them, that somehow you weren't making the most use out of it. But it's to point that the subject of possession is incredibly nuanced. If someone had taken something from you that you were making the most use of. And they're absolutely not going to make the most use out of that thing. They're going to use it for some selfish purpose. Then there should be a process of getting that back. And if it so happens that you can't get that back, unfortunately, then we do have to find some ways of moving on. Because holding on to something that's no longer in your experience is going to hold you back too. Whatever it may be, you can use this mantra that I am not what comes and goes. I am not what comes and goes. It's not to say that there isn't suffering involved with losing something important to you, but to remind you of your higher nature. That if it can be taken from you, it wasn't you. Or it hasn't actually been taken from you. You can use that truth to make different conclusions depending on your scenario. For example, if someone ends up stealing your pencil at school, the mantra, I am not what comes and goes. You can affirm, I'm not the pencil. I can live a happy life without the pencil. The pencil is not necessary for my being. Therefore, the fact that it has gone is not evidence that a part of me is missing. Or if a loved one has gone, the mantra, I am not what comes and goes, you can use the same truth in a different way to come to the conclusion that they haven't actually gone. Because loved ones are a part of you. If it appears that they have gone, then that's actually more of an illusion. So you can affirm yourself that something I feel is missing is not actually missing. Dear Robert, naturally there is a hesitation to, let my words in on your life because maybe I've experienced too much comfort and I don't know what it's like to feel your pain, for example. And if I come across like that, then I'm so sorry. I hope that nothing I say dismisses the struggle that you've gone through. I hope the smile on my face doesn't make you think that I'm ignorant of the pain that you've gone through, or that the joy that I express is a reminder of something that has been taken from you, for example. But if you do feel like that is true, I am sorry. I don't want you to feel like that. I hope you know that whatever you have experienced, you are able to find joy still, and you have come a long way, and your journey is just as valid as everyone else's. And I am so grateful to have the privileges that I do. If I was born in a different body, in a different place, in a different time, then I probably would have experienced many different things than I have in this life that I'm very grateful for. And there are so many people that have experienced lives that I can only begin to imagine how traumatizing they have been. In this life, I don't know what it's like to be abused by a family member, or experience a terminal illness or have a conflict between countries where I live, or have to pay for a surgery that would make me go into debt, etc. And I'm so grateful for that, and I want to make a world where more people have access to those things. But I also know that if you feel in your experience that your suffering is somehow invalidated based on another person's lack of suffering, then there's room for us to understand each other better than the differences that we hold against each other. And that if we want to make a world which has room for more happiness, for more peace, then we're going to have to look at our common ground first. And that would be true whether or not I've experienced the same amount of suffering as another person or not. That no matter the life I have lived, no matter the life that you have lived, for us to do our part to make the world one with less suffering, we have to go the extra mile to not judge each other, as that will only hold us back from expanding our respective worldviews. Every time that we experience something new, for example, maybe a person, we are met with a choice. We can choose to try to fit that into our experience, or we can choose to try to expand our worldview to accommodate this new experience. And coming from experience, every time that I've tried to force some new experience into the context of my life I had lived only up to that point, ultimately, I'm the one that suffers. And so, knowing what it's like to go through my own limited ability to perceive the world around me, I have discovered that so much peace comes when I'm willing to compromise. That I've experienced only this much, but you have experienced something that I haven't, and therefore, if I can look up to you in any way, even if it's small, that I am able to expand my experience and therefore move a little bit out of my comfort zone, creating more and more space to fit the experiences of my life in. And therefore, as I get older, instead of feeling smaller and smaller and more trapped in my worldview, I become more and more spacious, able to hold room for everyone's experiences simultaneously. I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I respect everyone's ability to hold their own beliefs and opinions. And the point of this live stream is not to change anyone's beliefs or opinions. I can't give another person the experience that I've had. But what I can do is share a little bit about the way that I see the world. And if you choose to open up to that, then that's wonderful. If not, then I respect that. And I ask you to find some space where you are best equipped to continue to grow and learn and love, which everyone deserves. Thank you, dear Mari, for your subscription. Never expected, but always appreciated. And thank you, dear Waterwind, for your subscription too. Om Kali Mahakali Kali Ke Parameshwari Sarvananda Kari Devi Narayani Namostute. And thank you, dear Blackstar, for your heart meat and quartet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And dear Renvox, thank you for your tiny. Yippee! You're a day late and $1 short. You ask, what does subscribing do? When it comes to my ability to attend to whatever you're going through, nothing. I am happy to attend to you, regardless of if you show support. It is just an opportunity for you to do so if you want to. If it makes you feel good, I happily accept. But it's not expected, nor is it necessary. I'm happy to be here, regardless. And thank you, dear Renvox, for your tiny. Yippee! Dear Kenzie, you ask, do I have any advice on intellectualizing versus feeling emotions? Both can be helpful depending on the circumstance. And both can be unhelpful if we are not finding a balance. There are times in which it's better just to feel what you're feeling without intellectualizing it, without putting a name on it. Some feelings don't have to have a reason. Because regardless of the reason, it's still going to be a part of your experience, here and now. Therefore, it's important to feel it. To just accept and love that this is where you are at this moment. These feelings are occurring to you, and you don't have to change it. And this too shall pass. Other times it can be helpful. It can be really helpful when we want to know why a certain pattern continues to arise. If we notice that we continue to get defensive when a certain topic is brought up, we can ask ourselves, maybe after the feeling has passed, why is it that certain things seem to provoke me? You know? Coming to a reasoning behind that can be really helpful in order to make changes in other places in your life so that these things don't affect you as much, or you learn how to deal with them in more healthy ways. That all can happen through using the gift of our buddhi, our intellect. And I'm very happy to know that many people find value here. Dear Dalen, you share that you got a friend that you miss, and when he did it intentionally, and you feel bad that you couldn't. The comment got cut off, but I think I understand where it's going. And you couldn't help, whether you couldn't change his mind or be there for him. Yeah, that's heavy. Let that go. You don't have to carry that way. It's not going to do you good. It's not going to do your friend any good. A person's decision with what they do with their life is entirely theirs. What we do is we offer options. When it comes to the choices in other people's lives, the only way that we relate is through what options we offer. We can't make another person choose one thing or another, but we can provide them choices. For example, in hostage situations and people that are, at the edge of the bridge, one of the first things that a negotiator may say is, you don't have to do this. Which can be very, very nice to hear if you're trapped in the idea that this is the only way forward, that there is another way. That there are support groups, and that in any way that I can hear out what you're going through at this moment, I'm willing to do so. That sort of stuff. So it provides the other person space to explore. But whether or not they choose to explore that space, the options, the choices you offer, that's not you. You are the one who offers. You are not the one who takes that offer or refuses to take that offer. That's not you. And your duty is never to do something that was out of your control. Your duty is simply to fulfill what is in your control. Offering space, offering an ear to listen, offering a heart to love. That's what you can do. Whether or not those offers were taken says nothing about your ability to have done the right thing or wrong thing. You are enough in the most that you can do. And anything more than your most is not for you in this life to do. Thank you, Miss Bliss, for the heart mean that you had sent. Om Namah Shivaya. I'm happy to see that you see a lot of yourself in me, dear Christina. The only S, you ask, can we do a meditation to bring forth positivity and protection for our being? Absolutely. The meditation I have planned is actually really similar. I think it's in theme already for tonight. Dear Jenny, you ask, do I believe in other entities? I only believe in just one, and that's life. Whether it's in the form of this body, whether it's in the form of that body, whether it's in the form of a snail or a tree or an alien or something more creative. One life, one entity, one being, one spirit. All the same. Thank you, dear Jenny, for your rose. Om Som Somaya Namaha. I echo that, dear G to infinity. Thank you all for being compassionate with each other. Good night, dear Katie. Claudel Griffin, you ask about past lives. What about past lives, dear Claudel? Dear Tati Monica, you ask, do I believe love is connected to time itself? Well, through time, we can express our love in many ways. For example, patiently waiting for our lover to arrive is a lovely thing we can do through time. But love definitely transcends time, and you can feel the love from your ancestors now, even if they and their bodies have been dead for thousands of years. And you can send love to your future self as you can receive it from your past self. Do I have any past lives I remember, asks Claudel. Right now, I trust that this life contains everything I need in order to be happy. And so I don't bring a lot of my attention to my past life. I try to bring as much attention as I can to what needs to happen in this moment. But I'm sure that if I really looked deep, I could probably tell you many things about what this energy system was up to before the version that it was today. And let me tell you, you probably don't want to hear who I was. It's my intuition that in this life, I've been able to make up for a lot of things that happened previously. And so I'm grateful for the chances to make up for that in this life. Thank you, Jenny, for your tiny. Yippee! Oh, I like that, dear Gregor G. Future you, send present you some love. He said that he built it up thanks to y'all. That's so sweet. Dear David, you ask, was there a moment in my life that opened my desire to share my wisdom? Well, I'm always sharing my experiences. That's just my nature. Whether or not my experiences are wise, you can tell me. But I've always been one to let others in on my life. And when I study from great masters that have come before me, they all say that the best way to be in line with our higher self is to serve others. And so I hear that and I jump on here as soon as I can every day. And I'm nowhere close to the level of those great masters that I learn from. But even as a student, I try to do my part to share the things that make sense to me. And if they help other people, well, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. You're welcome, dear Claudel. Yeah, I like that, dear Kenzie. Yes, we can transition to our meditation now. So thank you everyone for exploring our Sangha and all it has to offer so far. There is something I'd like to do just before we meditate. And that's the question of the day. Today I have a question, which is what can we do, each of us, to add to the harmony in the world? I would love to know. Feel free to answer from any place within that makes sense to you. There is no right answer. This is not a test by any means. Thank you, dear Claudel. If there's anything you see in me that you'd like to see more of in the world, then I hope you see the very same possibility within yourself. Hello, dear Mariham. Alright, some answers of the day. A day late and $1 short, you share, send out positivity to the world. I like that. Yeah. Challenge question for you is, what are some ways that we can do just that? Hello, Naomi. You share, love yourself and be kind. Simple as that. And as you very bright souls add to that, I'm going to pause the alarm on my phone. Dear Claudel, you share, open your heart and mind. I love that answer. Shameless, you share, try to be 1%. What was the word you chose? My chat scrolled. More enthusiastic. I like that. That's a very realistic expectation. A realistic goal. Just 1%. That makes a difference. It adds up. It compounds. Just be our authentic selves, shares Faithful Being. I love that too. Bree, you share, serve others. And my question for you, dear Bree, is what's an example of serving others? Dear Kenzie, you share, we can listen to our loved ones with empathy. Yeah. Thank you, dear Chelsea. Giovanna, you share love, compassion, and empathy. The holy trifecta. Tea with Tay, you share, be kind and extend our consideration to others. I like that. I like how your name is an anagram of tea. And I like how you embrace that. Thank you for sharing the live, dear David. Hello, dear Zachary. Much like prayer, you suppose, there's a day late and $1 short? Yes, absolutely. We do send positivity out. As long as we're praying for good. I suppose you could pray for something terrible to happen. But fortunately, I don't think that prayer will reach its destination. The only S. You share, honestly, just take care of ourselves the best we can. Ourselves are in the world of its own, or in a world of its own. Well said. I like that. Be like water. You share, learn to accept, love, and forgive ourselves. That way we can practice on others. I love that answer. And my question for you is, what is one way we can make it easier to forgive ourselves? Dear Greg R.G., you share, we can try and complement each other's via chord structure. I like that. Music theory. Harmonization. Love your brothers and sisters, shares Catherine. Bake goodies for your neighbors. That's a wonderful way of serving others, dear Bree. Dear Darlene, you share, walk into your day knowing that what you put out comes back to you. Yeah. Good insurance. Rhiannon, you share, we choose our battles. Not every hill is worth dying on. It's true. It's true. Dear David, you share, it begins with transforming oneself to accept and not judge. Yeah. Bree, you share, we can also pray for others by name. Having that personal connection is so important. Dear Canadian Canuck, you ask, am I going to go over that book about the Nanak and the other Sikh gurus again? Yeah, I think we can. Maybe we can do that. We can do that just before our meditation. Hello, Ro. Be like water. You share, the easy way to forgive yourself is to forgive yourself. I like that. Don't overcomplicate it. Tattvam Asi, you share, show others possibilities, and that future is not a narrow, determined state. Thank you, Chelsea, for the rose you sent. Radhe, Radhe. Dear Krusty, you share, the world will never be peaceful in this dimension. Ah. How provoking. So in what dimension should we look for peace there, dear Krusty? Dear Zachary, you share, contribute to your community, practice gratitude, lead by example. I like these two. Enjoy your journey in life, shares Kenzie, with knowing there's always better times ahead. I love that. Rhiannon, you share, having grown up in turmoil, you choose peace. Now you live alone. Understandable. And finally, from your notes, dear Zachary, resolve conflicts peacefully. Spread positivity. Well said. Dear Gregor G, you share, with the chords, waves get interrupted if they are the same, but different waves create brand new ones. Oh, I love that. Well, these are wonderful answers. Thank you, everyone. This is a great exploration before we dive into our meditation tonight. I love that. Very kind, dear Meditrip. Hello, dear Mari. Pause the question of the day for now, but if you had an answer, please feel free to continue to share it and express it in other places in your life. Also, when I upload these on YouTube, the comment section is a lot bigger and you get more time to express yourself. In case you ever wanted to leave a more permanent answer there. You're gonna fall asleep before meditation, dear, a day late? Okay, let's just do the meditation, and then after we can read from a section from the book on Sikhism I have. That seems to work best for everyone, I think. Now we've come to the final part of our Sangha dedicated to Nididhyasana, putting into practice the things that we have touched on. Oh my goodness, I am space, I am the universe. But actually, I just want a little bit of the universe behind me. Not become the whole thing right now. Always happy to compromise. Okay. For the meditation tonight, I thought we'd simply raise awareness for the suffering in the world. Awareness alone is not going to solve the problems in the world, but it is a necessary first step. We cannot make change without understanding what is there to change. So this meditation, I'd like to be guided by my voice, and I hope to speak in a way that relaxes you. Of course, you can be in a position that is most comfortable for you. Maybe that means sitting cross-legged with your back supported or unsupported, breathing consciously. This is not going to be an overwhelming meditation. It's not going to be a list of all the problems. However, we are going to touch on some of the things. We're going to make space for them. And the idea is to make enough space for the whole world to exist as it is, and ourselves to find a place in that, and be able to not feel trapped by the reality of the world. Okay. Deep breathing. May this meditation be like a prayer. Let us hold in our hearts the privileges that we have that others haven't had the chance to experience. May we set the intention for our ability to manifest a world in which those privileges are more and more accessible. We meditate on all those who are without food, without water. Let us hold in our heart the value of these things that we know are such a vital part of our experience. Let us think about just how much food there is in the world and how much of it could be better used if we lowered the demand on kinds of foods that are unhealthy or that add to the garbage problem in the world and the litter. If we reduced our food waste, if we increased our distribution, think about how much room there is to expand, to more ethical ways of receiving and giving food. May we hold space in our hearts for everyone who is going without clean drinking water. Think about how important it is for us to have water that isn't contaminated with possible diseases, things that could infect us, or an imbalance of minerals. Let us think about how much we can do to ensure that our waters around the planet are unpolluted, clean, And maybe we can reduce our water usage in unnecessary ways, like having a giant green grass lawn, and consider alternative ways of decorating our front yards, perhaps allowing small ecosystems to live there with diversity. And let us hold space for all the charities that, by our own research, maybe we can set aside a little bit of the money that we get to help someone else and live by the proverb that no one ever became poor by giving. Even if it's something small, if we play our part, all of us together, that difference adds up. Let us keep in our heart all the armed conflicts that are happening around the world. In this moment, there are bombs going off, guns being fired, people taking shelter from explosions, and there's all the bureaucracy of having to change the way you live your life, waking up in fear, going to bed in fear, not seeing a family member that has been separated, refugees trying to make their own life away from family members that are still stuck in the conflict, and all of the formalities on getting accepted into another country. All of that is happening in this moment. Let us hold them in our hearts. Let us not ever forget that, because no one wants to be forgotten. Even if we can't take a plane and go there right now and be on the front lines and provide support directly, at the very least, we mustn't forget that there are things that we are experiencing that others deserve to, and let's continue to hold space for that possibility for them. And if anyone is feeling overwhelmed, remember to keep breathing. In this moment, it's not selfish to remind yourself that you are safe, that you're okay in this moment. You're okay. And those who are experiencing suffering, they want us to empathize, but they don't want us to be so burdened by that pain that we end up shutting ourselves off from them or ourselves. Just as it's important to hold space for all of the suffering in the world, it's so important to hold space for the things that you can be grateful for. That's the point. To take everyone who's experiencing the lack of something and that which you are not lacking in your life, and holding those two realities in your heart, bridging the gap, setting the intention to make that something that everyone can experience. Imagine your heart heals whatever's in it. Or imagine that it sets the energies in motion to bring about healing in more practical ways that we can apply ourselves in later. So whatever you hold space for in your heart is not for you to be held back by, but for you to signal to the universe that this is something that I'd like to direct energy, attention, and care to. There's a lot of people whom are living in developed countries, but still they have to go through systems of oppression, racism, sexism, ageism, ableism, prejudice of all kinds. Let us hold space for the fact that no one deserves to be segregated or treated differently based on something that they didn't choose. That no matter the body you're born in, or the country, or the time, that you deserve an equal chance to find peace during this time on earth together. And there doesn't have to be a reason why you can't have that just because the color of your skin is different, or what your dominant gene is, or who your parents were, or what religion you are from. So let us hold space for all of that prejudice. And let us bring our attention to not our differences, but our similarities, our commonalities. May we never forget what is the same between you and I. Because there we find connection, understanding, love, togetherness, wholeness, community. There are many people right now who are going through some dis-ease. Many are in corrupt systems of medical care, requiring them to sacrifice other necessary parts of their life in order just to live another day. And there are people that don't have medical assistance at all in this moment. May we keep them in our hearts, and may we continue to strive for systems that work for everyone. And may we do our duty to learn a little bit about what makes our bodies healthy, so that we can help in little ways, ever that needs to be, such as considering taking first aid courses, or considering courses in mental health help, even without being professionals. We can all raise awareness for our health, and we can be role models for healthy living so that others know what that's like. May we consider donating to people who are struggling to find the funds for a surgery, or may we consider donating to research to help us push the boundaries of what we understand is possible for the treatment of conditions that currently there are no cures for. May we raise awareness for all of the treatments that are cures for things that are unfortunately not widely available. May we rally against the corporations that are keeping life-saving medicine from people whose lives can be immediately turned around if only they had access to it for free, or at least at a cheaper cost. And consider sponsoring someone, perhaps in another part of the world, or in your own life, that is struggling in this way. And may we be grateful for all of the help that we get from places that we are privileged to access. May we hold space for all of those families that have been separated by addictions, drugs, and mental health problems that create barriers in between people. Let us pray that everyone finds their family and continues to achieve healthier and healthier relationships with the people in their lives. Let us destigmatize addiction and know that no one chooses to be addicted. And everyone deserves treatment options for their addiction, just as if it were any other disease that they contract without intending to. And may we continue to feel supported in our decision to distance ourselves from people who are not accepting help for their addictions and inadvertently crossing the boundaries of people that love them and just want better for them. Let us hold space for the wealth disparity, and may we continue to support those who do not have as much money as others to be able to take care of themselves and their families. May we simultaneously see that everyone deserves an equal chance to discover their innate happiness and express it with the world around them. And that the process for making that a reality requires treating each other not just with equality, but with equity. Some of us require a little more help than others, and that's okay. There's a lot of suffering, not just at the level of humanity, but also at the level of our nature as a whole. There's a lot of animals who have been displaced due to industrialization, urbanization. We have brought invasive species in many places that are not used to having certain kinds of life there. And Mother Nature is experiencing a lot of pollution. There's deforestation. All the aspects leading into climate change. And our waters could be much cleaner. Let us hold space for the fact that we are not separate from nature. We are part of nature, and nature is a part of us. And nature deserves to be taken care of too. And if everyone acted in kindness, and this world would heal so much quicker than we can even imagine. And all of that is possible now. But in all of what's happening around the world and in our lives, let us never lose track of who we are. We, at our highest nature, are ultimately unaffected by the circumstance. And yet, it's our duty to change the circumstance, because that is where we find ultimate purpose. The greatest meaning in life is so simple. It's to be a part of the whole. And right now the whole has a lot of problems, graciously, so that we may be a part, do our part, and bring other parts together in harmony. And so every time there's something that you can do to make this world a better place, remember that that is a gift to you. We are gifted in having the world the way it is, to be able to allow us to put a smile on another person's face, to see what it's like for the land to turn green again, for the waters to turn clear, for wounds to heal, for laughter to be heard again. All of that is a gift back to us for giving ourselves. And to end this meditation, We'll chant Om 3 times. I hope this meditation awakened your heart and relaxed your mind. Namaste. Oh, that's unique. This is one of the first meditations where we have more people now than we do when we started. So welcome everyone who joined while we were meditating. You're very welcome, a day late and $1 short. So thank you everyone for being part of that. I have to reach past you, excuse my reach. Tattvamasi, you ask, does one-pointedness last? Could one's passion last for life with the same intensity? Should it? Yeah. You can and should be exuberant. Always. Just what you're exuberant about may change. You may be exuberant about learning that next really difficult gymnastics move that I know you've been trying so hard to achieve. And then the next moment you could be really exuberant about going for dinner because you've burnt a lot of calories. And then after that you can be really exuberant about getting some rest because you need time to digest. You can be one-pointed about anything, and that thing may change. So one of you asked if we could talk more about Sikhism, since someone was interested in learning about that religion. I'm not a good source on Sikhism, but this book is, and I'd be happy to read about another aspect of Sikhism. We had read from this book before. It's called Sikhs, A Story of a People, Their Faith and Culture. Even though I don't identify myself with a Sikh, with Sikhi, as it's called, I feel like it's our duty to learn and empathize with all religions, even if we have a religion of our own. Let's see, what's a good aspect of Sikhism? Let me tell you about the religious landscape surrounding the origin of Sikhism. And that is on page 16. What would it be like to be around the time that Sikhism first emerged? Let's explore that together. So Sikhism emerged in a region of India called Punjab, which comes from the Sanskrit pancha, meaning 5, and up, meaning waters. Punjab, 5 waters. Punjab witnessed not just the amalgamation of ancient beliefs into the multi-stranded philosophy of Hinduism, for example, but also the arrival of Islam. 15th century Punjab was no stranger to a variety of religious beliefs and practices, having been populated for centuries by communities that ascribed to a diversity of faiths. It was also the frontier that faced Islam when it entered an invader, as opposed to its peaceful arrival on the western coast earlier. So let's talk about the various influences. The first is Hinduism. And I'll start by showing you a gum tempera painting from the 1800s, which depicts the Hindu deity Shiva, identifiable with his all-seeing third eye on his forehead, along with his consort Sati, both seated in a lotus blossom. The prevailing faith in the subcontinent at that time was Hinduism. However, its tenets are difficult to define. There is no single personality around which it evolved, nor a clear authoritative creed on which it is based. It is more of a philosophical construct that grew organically, assimilating along the way various beliefs and values of the people it came into contact with. It is, in the words of philosopher and the first president of India, S. Radhakrishnan, a medley of rites, a mere map. It meant one thing in the Vedic period, another in the Brahmanical period, and a third in the Buddhist. In the centuries after the arrival of the Indo-Aryans in the subcontinent in the 2nd millennium BC, their propitiation of natural phenomenon, the rising sun, the full moon, thunder and lightning, gradually came to be integrated with the diverse pantheon of deities worshipped by the people of the Indus Valley. There's a wonderful quote that Hinduism may be described rather as an encyclopedia of religion than as a religion, from Nicole MacNicol, from Indian Theism, from the Vedic to the Mohammedan period, 1915. The Hindu pantheon includes innumerable gods and goddesses, all accepted as aspects of the One Supreme, who is just in varied manifestations of the same energy, the creator, preserver, destroyer, etc. It is for this reason that Hinduism is often perceived as a fusion of various customs that likely predated the Vedas, its earliest scriptural texts stretching back into prehistoric times. The earliest institutionalization of the Vedic tradition was marked by the composition of the Rig Veda in the Doabs around the Indus Valley. Other texts, such as the Dharma Shastras and the Upanishads, were added to the Vedic corpus over time, defining religious duties, rites, and rituals, codes of conduct, moral precepts, every aspect of knowledge essential to live a dharmic or dutiful life. With the institutionalization of beliefs and codes of conduct came the emergence of a hierarchy, the caste system, an almost inviolate division of society into Brahmins, priests, Kshatriyas, warriors, Vaishyas, merchants, and another term that's not censored in this book, but in recent times I've seen it censored because it has been used oppressively, and it translates to the artisans and laborers. Over the years, strands of Hinduism were patronized by different kingdoms. Deities rose to prominence at different periods in different parts of the subcontinent. The one constant, however, was the acceptance of philosophy, of essential philosophy laid down by the sacred texts that defined a way of life, a person's dharma. But that wasn't the only religion around the time of Sikhism's development. There was also Islam. Islam was born in 7th century Arabia, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, founded a community of followers in Mecca after a divine vision. A Muslim, which literally means believer, accepts absolute surrender to the will of Allah, who is the one and only God. Worship in Islam centers on the basic tenets of reverence to the messenger of God, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the sacred text known as the Quran. Strict monotheism, collective reading at the mosque, fasting in the month of Ramadan, and the pilgrimage to Mecca are essential practices which together create a sense of universal equality, brotherhood, and solidarity among Muslims. As Arab traders regularly crossed the Arabian Sea to the Indian subcontinent, the new religion did not take long to reach its western shore. Moreover, there had always been some Arabs who preferred to stay instead of returning with their ships. The first Arab Muslim settlements were established along the Malabar coast as early as 636 CE. Mosques were built and the community grew peacefully, converting the local populace as it expanded further inland toward the south and north. With Mahmud of Ghaznī's campaign in India in the 11th century, traces of Islam began seeping into Punjab, and Muslim forces came to be seen as the enemy. The number of Muslims in the region increased in the 12th century, when the Islamic rule was perpetuated after Muhammad Ghori's first conquest to Punjab, which established the Delhi Sultanate. And Sikhism has a lot of interactions with that sultanate over the coming centuries. But that too wasn't the only religion around the region when Sikhism was developing. There's also Buddhism. Gautama Buddha, or the Enlightened One, founded a new school of non-theistic religious thought in North India in the late 6th century and early 4th centuries BC. I like that term, non-theistic. Rather than atheistic, it's just non-theistic. It means that it doesn't make claims over the divine. He taught the middle way, that the course to a life without suffering is a path between slavish attachment to material desires and asceticism. Patronized by the Mauryan king Ashoka, Buddhism spread rapidly through the north of the subcontinent. According to author D.C. Ahir, Buddhism came to Punjab with Buddha himself and enriched the region's culture. However, its popularity waned in the face of Hindu sects and the advent of Islam by the end of the 7th century CE. And there's some other pictures here. There's a Quran manuscript from the late 18th or early 19th century, and the beautiful blue and gold illumination is found in the opening to the 9 surahs or chapters. And there's a statue of Gautama Buddha below that from the 15th century of a seated Buddha from Thailand. So let's read on. Maybe we can read on next time, however, because it's getting late. But that was the religious landscape surrounding Sikhism. So lots of different strands of faiths, many different strands of faith that are collectively called as Hinduism. There is the Islam, Buddhism, just to name a few. And so all of those formed an image in the mind of Guru Nanak, the first Guru. And I find it beautiful that that one of the first things you need to know about Sikhism is the essentials of other religions too. And this, as you'll see, is a religion that is really built on incorporating elements from many religions harmoniously. And I think that's beautiful. But yes, that's very sweet, dear G2 Infinity. I'm happy that you wanted to read more. You like that non-theistic? Yeah, I've also heard Buddhism described as trans-theistic, which means that it goes beyond theism. But non-theistic is a nice neutral term. Dear Riri, you ask, do we know how accurate the statues are? That's a great question. It's very difficult to know for certain. There are, however, texts that describe what a Buddha looks like, since a Buddha is a title of a being that may come into existence age after age. And so it's said that a Buddha may have really long earlobes, so long in fact that they may touch the shoulders. And their arms and legs may be really long too. I believe it's said that the arms go past their knees when they're standing up straight, which is why you can see the Buddha reach really far in front of them in some meditating statues. And if you've ever tried that, you'd know, my goodness, the Buddha has long arms. If their back's perfectly straight and they're reaching all the way over there to touch the ground. It's said that their skin is in golden color too, and that the bottom of their feet has the symbol of a lotus. But all of these things are probably more symbolic than anything. But these symbolisms do come out in the statues. So were they real, asks Hilm Cheryl. When it comes to the profound effect that their story has on the world, it's clear that something very real about that exists. The same is true for all religions. I think the proof of any religion is the fact that thousands of years later, that there's still this strand of force that continues to live on. And that is something divine, something miraculous. Whether it be Christian or Muslim or Hindu or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever. But you thought people really saw a Buddha? Yeah, and scholars do believe there was a person named Siddhartha Gautama, just as scholars believe there was a person who went by Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and there was a person who went by Jesus, or more accurately, Yeshua, who came from a place called Nazareth, etc. But the essence of their teaching is not based in the physical, but the spiritual, right? And so even if you don't experience their physicality today, you can still experience their spirituality. So a Buddha isn't just a group of people. Well, there are many Buddhas, Yeah. But the most recent one, Siddhartha Gautama, is believed to be a historical person as well. The Buddhas that came before him is just too far back in time to verify or not. Anyway, that concludes our Sangha for today. I agree, dear Demili. Siddhartha is such a Chad name. Hello, dear Mermander. And goodbye. Demili, you ask, would I rather comfortably live in a condo with a gazebo in space or in the astral realm forever? I am happy where I am right now, and wherever my life leads me, I hope to find happiness there too. And if eventually that leads me to the astral realm or a condo with a gazebo in space, then I hope to make that just where I want to be as well. And yes, there is supposed to be a future Buddha. How apart do they turn up? Over many thousands of years. Actually, it's said that the future Buddha should arrive around now. It's at about 2,500 years after the last. Well, guess what? 2,500 years ago was the last. But the last Buddha said something very strange. The last Buddha said that the next Buddha would be called Maitreya. Now, if you're an English speaker, that doesn't sound strange, it's just another name. But if you know Sanskrit, that means friendship. So the last Buddha said, I will return as friendship 2,500 years from now. And that's strange for two reasons. The first is because the word means friendship. But the second, because Buddhas aren't supposed to return. I take that to mean that the real Buddha were the friends we met along the way. Alright, that'll be the end of today's Sangha. So, thank you for being here. If there's anything else I can tend to, please reach out on another platform, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, email. I have to go attend to this body, put some food, drink in it, and go to bed a little earlier, and upload yesterday's live stream, etc. But thank you all for being here. If there's any part of this live stream that you felt was of value, please know that I do upload them to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel. I may be absent tomorrow, depending on how the schedule works out, because I might be seeing family. So we'll have to see. But I'll keep you updated on my Instagram story, which is where I post all the updates to my schedule. But may this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That means lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to the light, from death to deathlessness. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be feet. May there be feet. And may there be feet. Good night. And may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Yes, may there be peace in our feet because that's where our souls are. Get it? Thank you, dear Mermander, for the heart me and tiny that you had sent. Yippee! Dear Anna, thank you for your ice cream cone. Om Vamadevaya Namo Jeshtaya Namah Shristaya Namo Rudraya Namah Kalaya Namah Kalavikaranaya Namo Balaya Namo Balavikaranaya Namo Balapramatanaya Namah Sarva Bhuta Damanaya Namo Manon Manaya Namaha. Thank you, dear Marcy, for your tiny. Om Aghorebhyo Tha Ghorebhyo Aghora Ghore Dharebhyaha Sarvadhash Sarva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudra Rubhebhyaha. Thank you, dear Ron, for your heart me. Om Sadhyo Jatam Prapadyami Sadhyo Jataya Vai Namo Namaha Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavasvamam Bhavod Bhavaya Namaha. And dear Photonik, thank you for your trio of roses. Om Ishana Sarva Vidyanam Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Brahma Dipati Brahmano Dhipatir Brahma Shivo Me Astu Saiva Sada Shiva Om. Without further ado, please hold me accountable to any way in which I can be a better host next time. And whether or not this is your morning or afternoon or evening or night, may you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment.